The contents of this interview, or from Awake and Empowered Expo LLC from Ethann Fox and Flower of Life Center for Human Evolution, is for informational purposes only and does not necessarily reflect the viewpoints held by these organizations or individuals. Always consult with your doctor or health professional before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or prescription drug use. Please understand that you assume all responsibility and risk for the use or misuse of this information.
Welcome to Awake and Empowered Radio. This is Ethann Fox. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kate of Gaia. Kate is a freelance investigative journalist, reporter, and broadcaster who is well known for her understanding of international laws, phonics, and legal English, and the history of our current system of governance and finance. Kate is a revolutionary who is dedicated to the creation of a freer society in which individuals can reclaim their sovereignty. You can learn more about these subjects on her show Outside the Box Open Forum. First of all, Kate, I want to welcome you to the show and thank you for taking the time to join us. And you're very generous with everything that you do for people. And I've been on your show a couple of times, and it seems to me, and I don't really know for sure, but it sounds to me like you've got quite a following. And really, what I'm looking to start out with is to understand. You were obviously not always doing this, I would imagine. What brought you to this point to where you're part of this whole truth movement and this revolution that's happening in the world? I mean, were there any actual defining moments that started you on that journey? Or, like in some people's cases, including mine, your former life sort of blew up and as a result you went in this new direction. What caused you to get here?
Blew up's a good word. I choose shredded. Yeah. I'm a singing, songwriting musician, right? And I've done that most of my life. And that's been a very defining thing for me. It was quite well known in my areas. That was one of the things that made the system nervous, was because I already had a name, and to add my name to a sovereignty movement, they deemed me a slightly larger threat. But during performances or whatever, I've always been very outspoken as far as system and, people doing the right things. And my music's available on my site too, by the way. It's all free, download it. In between songs, that was where I took my little snippets of finding love for the system and tossed them out there. And one of my friends, actually a studio guy, worked with a radio station, this is going back a number of years, and had said to me, he said, it was community radio volunteer on FM. He said, you would really make a great host for a conspiracy theorist show, right? And I said, well, not really into the conspiracy theories. For me, they're never theories. It's about researching truth, right? So it happened, so it can't be a theory. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I hummed and hawed over that for about a year and a half, knowing full well and you've heard me, so I am not shy about speaking out against anything, any wrongdoings. I don't care who's involved. I name people quite loudly. And I knew that at that time that this was not going to be a quiet thing. And it was an intuitive, and here I am. Ended up, I think I did conspiracy stuff for about 3 months. Then I finally decided, no, this is all nonsense. Everyone's talking about Kennedy. Everyone's talking about 9/11. They all know about the who, what, where, when, and how, but no one's asking why, the real why. And because people are afraid to ask why. They don't want to know the truth. For the most part, people don't want to know the truth. They're quite comfortable. That's been what I've came across anyway. And as time went on, I was with the FM station for a couple of years, and at the same time, I've been doing some internet radio, and I've pretty much grown from there. Became a threat to the system of 2010. I got my first. Well, I had a few tests prior to that. There was a few things ahead of that, but they're inconsequential as far as I'm concerned. Little bits of experience. And that was May of 2010, actually May 26th to be specific. I put out you might have heard of these Notice of Understanding claim of intent. We call them new cores, right? And that was on May 26 of 2010. They tried serving me middle of August with bogus paperwork to a non-existent ticket. Failed 3 times. I went into court September 1st, 2010 of my own volition, knowing full well these guys had failed to serve me. And I had put some paperwork in there to let them know that I was coming in, special appearance. And of course, walking into the courtroom before anything happened, I claimed the common law jurisdiction, which all courts are. We just never claim it. And then that was the day the judge bowed to me. And from there, it's pretty much history, isn't it?
Is that the video that's online where
Yeah.
the judge bows to you? Okay, I've seen that.
Yeah, that's yours truly. I look a little different now. Still sound the same, but I sure as hell look different.
I get a lot of people when we first talk about this subject, a lot of people obviously are conditioned to think more conventionally, and I get the comment, well, who's going to pave our roads and who's going to build our bridges if we're not functioning in the system and paying our taxes and so on. Can you give us an idea, just for the people who are not quite
Sure.
aware of this, as to where do our tax dollars actually go?
That's the interest on the IMF loans.
Okay.
Your government's like printing out lots of money, right? All they got to do, and there's a lot of good videos out there telling people what's really going on with the money. So they need to get out of that disillusionment. Any and all taxes. The IRS is merely a collection agency for. It's an international. It's not a U.S. thing. For the International Monetary Fund, they collect the interest, or as I like to call it, the slave rent, for corporations to use their slaves, and that's what everybody is. If you got a registered name, you're a slave. You are a dead legal, by your consent, legal fiction. And sorry, slaves don't have any rights. Yeah, they might have some rights. If you're up for 10 lashes, you might be able to beg your master to only give you 5. Okay, but other than that, you're still going to get lashed.
Specifically, where does the money come from that actually goes toward infrastructure?
Well, I guess the governments borrow it. They borrow it into existence, then you end up paying for it on, thousandfold. Not only you paying for it, your kids are paying for it. No, that money is borrowed into existence. The tax dollars do not pay for anything. They do not pay. Let me say that again. They do not pay for anything. That is money theft of your productivity. That's how the system is built. It's built on stealing.
So, in as simple terms as possible, can you explain the foundation of our legal system as it's based on maritime admiralty law, and what exactly does that mean and look like in our reality?
Okay, well, that is a very simple answer. It's tough for people to get because they have to get past all of the little programs called borders, nationalities, thinking that jurisdictions, one city is this, one city is that, and no, it's a very simple system. They've told you for a long time. It's called the New World Order, and the New World Order has been in existence since 1694. That's when the Bank of England was opened, and the living crown was turned into the dead fictional corporate crown, or as I call it, the same spelling. You can make it sound like crone, like crow-n, or crown. Phoenician law. It's all about sound. I'll get into that in a minute. But what we have effectively is one planetary jurisdiction. If there's a court in the country, then it's under the crown. Temple Bar, City of London, state. That's, or all lawyers have to cross the bar. I don't care where they are on the planet. You got a lawyer or a judge on this planet, they're bar members out of the City of London, Middle Temple Bar. Okay, so don't be disillusioned by thinking that, the United States Code doesn't apply in Great Britain, doesn't apply in Lithuania, doesn't apply. Every one of the 65 to 70 million bylaws, that's all they are. They're statutes, they're bylaws, corporate bylaws, apply everywhere on the planet. They just like to make you think that they don't. It's sort of like a casino. They like to, make you think that you can win because they let one or two win on occasion to keep that hope alive. It's the same thing with the court system. They're a casino. You cannot win in their casino. The courts win 100% of the time, and they'll maybe let 4% of the people appear to win to keep the illusion alive that you actually can win when you can't. Admiralty is Phoenician laws. Roman laws is based on Phoenician law that was 900 years before it. And of course, the whole Roman civil code and all the rest of it. And what we have is this massive, expansive corruption called legal system. So there's only two jurisdictions. There's yours, the living, common law of yourself, your own court, and the crown, dead legal fiction. And the identification that people are carrying automatically puts them in that jurisdiction, or as I call it, jurisfiction.
Now, from my understanding, you've been functioning outside of the system for how long?
About 3 years, 3.5 years.
Okay. And so you don't have a driver's license, social security card, a passport,
Nothing.
anything like that?
Nothing.
Okay. And you still manage to get around, and have you traveled outside of the country and everything?
No, not yet. Again, it's funny you ask. I'm out doing public appearances now. Now, to let people know what's going on with me, this is a very personal thing. It's got nothing to do with anything but me, okay? The voice sounds a lot lower than what I look like. I'm transgender. Okay. So I've spent a lifetime in that war within me, okay, of the masculine, feminine, the magnetic, electric. I come at this from a very spiritual angle. Scientifically spiritual at that, I might add. Both have to come into play equally, or you'll never see how this game works. But as far as, I don't carry anything. The only thing I do carry is a copy of the birth certificate, which is proof of the intent of the Crown to commit fraud against my mom and dad.
And that birth certificate gets you out of country as well? Or
No, I wouldn't need anything to get out of the country. See, this is the thing. People in the modern sense forgot what it was like 200 years ago. You didn't need passports. You wanted to go somewhere, you went.
So what happens when you cross the border?
Haven't done that yet, but that's coming up. I did get to satiate that question. In 2011, my father passed away, and of course, I had no ID. And I contacted the British High Consulate in Ottawa because, in order to get a British passport, I'm from the UK originally. Here in Canada, what do you mean I have to go to Washington, District of Columbia to get that? Okay, because all countries are registered through Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. District of Columbia, the 10 square mile, that's a country. There's 3 separate countries that most people aren't aware of. A lot of people do know that the Vatican City is a state, is a country by itself. But not many people know that District of Columbia is a country as well. 10 square mile, and you got the square mile in London called the City of London State. There's 3 mayors in London. There's the elected one for the people outside of the square mile, in the greater London area, and there's 2 mayors in the City of London State square mile. One is elected by the people in that square mile, right, lawyers and bankers, and the other one that most people don't know about is appointed by the Pope. And with this apostolic letter that just came out was the clear and decisive severing of church and state between Rome and London. You see, the courts have the power, only had the spiritual power. And you got to get a little out of the box here, guys, or you're going to miss this boat. What happened on July 11th when the apostolic letter was put out, it was a clear shot across the corporate bow that Rome has ripped the ecclesiastical power out of these courts, right? Because the courts, here's how I explain it. And this is the only way it really rings true with people. For those that are familiar with Revelations, all right? And I'm not religious by any stretch. I call anything religion is religiocosis chosenitis. You've been indoctrinated by a bunch of robe-wearing whatever. And they're not teaching you how to read that book properly. In Revelations 18 is probably a good place. That's where we're at right now. I follow the play-by-play. Commerce is the whore of Babylon. That's what's being referenced. The whore of Babylon is commerce. The mark of the beast is your name, the identification, the dead legal entity that everyone walks around with. Go ahead, try and do commerce without it, and you'll see the correlation very quickly. So London is the whore of Babylon. Rome was the patriarchal aspect. So London is the feminine magnetic, and Rome is the masculine electric. Okay, I see things in that way only. I'm an allegorical speaker. So what happened when that letter came out? There was a separation between Papa Rome and Mama Whore of Commerce. Okay, Whore of Babylon, and their bastard child called the court system lost its daddy and the power of the spirit. Okay, so there's no more spiritual protection for these guys, because you got to remember the courts operate in various ways, but you got to bring in both the Admiralty. Okay, here's the list of what involves with Admiralty, the dead legal side. You've got the Phoenician, which is sound. You've got which Roman law is based on, and you've got Admiralty, Lex Mercentorium, Commerce, Law of the High Seas. Anything involving commerce and dead things is what the Admiralty is. And then, of course, they for common law, they have to have the ecclesiastical in there as well. Excuse me, to bring both sides together, to bring it into balance. And the court is the marriage, or as I call it, the bastard child of church and state. And with this clear separation, the apostolic letter came into effect September 1st of this year. Go figure. Same day, 3 years prior, the judge bowed to me. I see all these things in a very allegorical way. And London shot back immediately with the HSBC, the bank, where all the Vatican's money was kept, and said, you got 60 days to get your money out of our banks. So that, for me, was the separation of what I call the unholy alliance of Rome and London.
Have you heard of Divine Providence?
Oh, yeah, I know Divine Providence very well. Talked to James Thomas a few times. And as of September 13th, this is why I've been telling people, and this is going back about a year ago last summer when I was involved looking at Divine Providence.
And,
go ahead.
Sorry. Well, he mentions, or I don't remember who it was, but I watched a interview with him where he talks about having created a country without borders. Essentially, Divine Providence is a country without borders. Is that an additional country within our country now? That
no, because it was established through a legal precept. Okay, you cannot create something, a fictional legal something within a fictional legal something. This is the same thing with the former OPPT. I don't know what the hell they're calling it now, but any use of the name is fraud. So if you're doing anything using that name without making it clear that you're using the lawful name only, and you fully understand what the legal name is, again, the courts are about assumption and presumption and intent. And when you use identification, you have automatically placed yourself in the only other jurisdiction there is outside of you, and that's the crown, the dead fictional land. And that's a spiritual contract. You do it by consent. And that was the same thing that any of these organizations that are trying to set up something, they're not doing it lawfully. They're still working within the legal. So it's still part of the same jurisdiction, or jurisfiction rather. And in September 13th, James Thomas got grabbed, and no harm to the guy. It's just, sorry, you cannot play in the legal system as a dead thing. It's a matrix. You'll never win in the casino. I'm sorry, you will never win. It was designed that way, and that's why people have been spinning for years, me included. But we got the game. It's a very easy one once you get your head around it. Are you a legal name or a lawful name? You can't have two masters. Choose. And if you're carrying ID, then sorry, you're of the legal game, and a cop can assume and presume that you're carrying ID, because guaranteed I can walk up to anybody in the street and say, you got some ID? And they will. So it's a safe bet for cops to walk up and tase and beat people to death just for, the hell of it. Because they're not killing anybody that isn't already dead. And that's a universal honor thing. And people need to wake up to this right quick.
So essentially you're saying that the protection implied by, or rather the structure that they've created in Divine Providence, is essentially not the direction you'd go.
Well, no, I mean, James Thomas is, as far as I know, still in jail.
Oh, is he still? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Got grabbed on September 13th. That's what I mean. This whole, and it would take me hours to explain the layers, the way that things have peeled off. But suffice it to say this. When the Judge Bow's video came out, that was a huge layer that got lifted off. And all the answers are in that video. I just had to learn how to decipher it and what happened and why. And the main thing was, I claimed common law jurisdiction upon walking into that room, because people don't do that. They automatically assume that the judge is in power. The judge is the weakest link in their chain. The clerk is the power in the court. For those that want to understand that, read the clerk's praxis from the 1700s. And the whole system is about honor and dishonor. And for me, I had to figure out, okay, well, how are we in more dishonor, universally, not legally, universally, than these guys that are taking, kids basically, 20-year-old kids that have done nothing except get caught with a joint in their pocket and doing 5 years behind bars. They want good, hardworking kids in their prisons to build their fridges and what have you in there. They do a lot more than license plates. Prisons are quite the business. That's where effectively the money is based. And that's why they're building more and more, because they need a bigger workforce, and you're automatically eligible to be hired for those prison factories by carrying ID, by your own consent.
There are quite a few people in this sovereignty movement from all around the world that I've been hearing about lately. You probably have heard of all of them. There's Jagamaro, who is in Australia, and David Wynn Miller with Syntax Grammar. I'm sure you've heard of him too, right?
Oh, I know David. Yeah, that doesn't work either.
That doesn't work either. Well, the thing is, David claims that his system invalidates everything else, because if something was not written in syntax grammar, then that's the new foundation for all. I
call bullshit on it.
The Divine Providence Organization, one thing that all three of these guys have in common is they all claim that they are postmaster generals. And I'm curious, what is the significance of being a postmaster general, and how did they manage to get into these roles? And is it just one per country, or?
They're self-proclaimed, and the UPU is headed by the Pope. I don't remember seeing any apostolic letters regarding or postmaster generals. You're still dealing with generals. You're still dealing with system. You're still dealing with legal, and these guys. Actually, I don't know the other one in Australia, so I can't speak to that. But I can speak to James Thomas and Dave Wynn Miller. The thing I know that they have in common are egos bigger than this planet. I call it as it is. I'm not here. I'm not here to be popular, my friend. I'm here for truth. And if people can't handle it, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not here for the miscongeniality award. Okay, I'm here to get through the garbage, to get people safe. And all of this other stuff to me is just pure and utter distraction. But they were necessary steps for me to be able to stand here and say the things that I do. And there are others saying the same things now.
So basically you're saying all of these techniques, including OPPT, are essentially functioning inside of the current system.
Yeah.
But do you think that was an important step in getting to this next place?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
By saying what I'm saying, I'm not discrediting what was done. What I am saying is they stopped at a certain point, and we had to continue on from there, because here's the thing, OPPT came out in December 25th, 2012. Okay. And that to me is a Dragnet COINTELPRO operation. It just reads like right out of the manual, right? Appeal to people's, hopes and desperations, and give them a great big carrot called money, and tell them that they're this and that. And then, of course, smack it with new age, be, do, love, have, and all the rest of this garbage. It's not garbage, but the whole premise that it's just crazy. Anyway, where was I going there? I hate when I derail myself. But anyway, everything. Oh, when OP came out, look at how many people flocked to it. It's a dragnet operation. Anything that has a carrot attached to it, money, savior. There's a savior here, right? I'm nobody's savior. Okay, you're your own savior. I look at it and go, yeah, okay. Anything that makes you look outside of yourself for the answer is not the answer. It is another control distraction. So, and this is a hard thing for people to get, because everyone's quite happy with their nanny state. They want their cake, they want to eat it too. They're going to gripe about taxes and everything else, but they'll go along with the system. They're quite content watching 9-year-old little girls getting their jaws blown off in Libya, and them having paid for the bullets, and cheering on everything via the CNN mainstream media programming setup. It's madness.
So obviously, and I think that's one of the moral implications of functioning in the system, even though a lot of people believe that they need to be good citizens and pay their taxes and so on, we're contributing to all of these things that we don't agree with. I doubt there are very many people who would agree with war, and yet we're saying it's okay by
paying
participating.
taxes.
Right. So how long has it been since you've actually paid your taxes?
Oh God, that was the first victory. I got 0. And again, I everything I speak of, I'm speaking from experience, not theory. CRA, that's the Canada Revenue Agency, or as I call it, Canadian ripoff artists. Again, they're the same as the IRS, right? They're collection agents for the IMF, and this is going back probably about 2003, 2004, and I was getting hassled by these guys. Self-employed, have been my whole life, and I always knew, even when I did ante up, which I never basically had to anyway, based on good accountants, but there was something wrong with it. I'm thinking, how can anybody just say, okay, because I say so, you give up 30, well, in case of anyone that's making any sort of a decent living, 50% or more in income taxes. And I'm thinking that's highway robbery. I don't care what you want to call it. And I'm not seeing any proof of, better roads and, kids being fed. There's still homeless people and all that. So to me, based on the amount of taxes that were going in, all I saw was the government getting fatter and fatter, with the public servant sector growing and growing. And it's like dealing with these guys, educated baboons. They know how to, follow flowcharts, and that's about it. But I got 0 filings using, and this is something that does not work any longer. This is what I'm talking about, the layers. When so many people can get through on a certain thing, it puts the system in a position of dishonor very quickly, so they put an end to it. So early techniques like this one that I used then for the 0 filings, and I got the blue papers back from the government, or from the CRA is not government. I got it back from the corporation tax collector, with all zeros, right? That I owed nothing, and that was So probably since about I'd say 1999, 2000. I haven't paid taxes.
So is this a system similar to what, are you familiar with?
It's all the same.
Are you familiar with Cracking the Code, that book?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that what he's doing?
Well, that's early stuff, and it's still in the system. And here's the thing. If you're using the legal name, you're committing fraud. End of story. And I'm going to make it very easy for you. If I got your mom and dad's information, Ethan, your full name, where you were born, time of birth, I could order your birth certificate online and start creating identification with it. And that applies to 7.3 billion people on this planet. So who are you? A birth certificate is automatic proof of fraud, because that can be ordered by anyone, anywhere on this planet, and they can create any identification. It is the only document that any government gives, and they absolutely insist, to the point of kidnapping mothers and children and holding them hostage in hospitals until the child is registered. They must get the legal name set up. The whole system is based on debt. The birth certificate slaps typically $1 million debt on the child. It's not, people talk about, UCC. Well, let's go get the bond and everything. No, really? One, it's debt that you're supposed to pay back throughout your lifetime. You want to get that zeroed out. Is what you want. You want to get rid of that. That's a bond, slave bonds. This is what they used to use in the 1800s when they couldn't bring slaves to market. They brought a document that was a slave bond, and they traded paper, and then they delivered the slaves later. It's just a more modern setup of the same thing. You're all slaves. You better wake up to that very quickly.
So if it's a debt bond and we have to pay it off, and you're saying earlier that we shouldn't even function inside the system, why bother paying it off?
Well, it's not that you have to pay it off. It's the assumption and presumption of the debt. It's a spiritual contract. They don't tell you this, okay? When you claim to be that name, it says right on mine, Crown Copyright. I'm a musician. I'm a singer-songwriter. I know publishing. I know copyright law. And when you copyright something, and here's something else too, you cannot copyright the title of a song. You can only copyright the body of the works. So when we claim to be the title of our song, whatever your name is, then the body of the works is copyright by the system. It's a tricky little system, but it's as easy as stepping away from it. If you were playing Monopoly with somebody that kept changing the rules as you were playing, how long would you play? And that's what everyone's doing.
So if somebody wanted to not comply today or not pay their taxes, what would you suggest they do to step outside of the system, since all these other methods are functioning within the system?
Well, that's why I tell people, really, if people want to talk with me and get on the same page as me, they're going to have to do a little bit of reading. It's going to take them about half a day to cover everything that they need to get. And it's on my website. It's all free. I abhor money like you would not believe. The more money you have, the more spiritual slave debt you have. Okay? And it's about changing one's intention. But get to my blog page or website. I keep calling it a blog page. It's a website. kateofgaia.wordpress.com. Go to the Kate's Writings page and read. And I guarantee you, by the time you've finished reading everything that's there, and like I said, it won't take you long, and the reading is quite entertaining, I assure you, you will not be the same being. You will have epiphany after epiphany after epiphany with oh my me moments galore. You want to awaken? Well, you got to start taking on the responsibility of who and what you are. And if you want, and I tell people, if you're content being a slave, I'm not here to debate or argue with you. You go ahead. You'll either be part of moving forward to change this world, to save the lives of children, et cetera, or you'll be a party to it. There's no gray area with this. People, you cannot justify anything with me, especially with me, if you are part of the system, supporting it, not knowing who you are. Those that are walking around with illegal identification are in fact aiding and abetting the industrial military complex. You're aiding and abetting the corporate governments. There is no such thing as a government, okay? They are corporations. That's all it is. And all the corporations, all the countries, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, every country on this planet is registered through the SEC in Washington, D.C. Direct current, as I call it. They want to grab all that. And again, that would take me hours to explain. But seriously, I just tell people, go spend half a day reading, and then we can talk. Because you'll be on close to the same page where we're all at. And the simple fact is, if you're using a legal name, you're done. You're in the jurisdiction, and you're there by consent, and they will fleece you, they will tase you, they will put you in jail, they will murder you. Like here in Canada, there's over 500 people killed every year in custody and not one charge. They have a license to kill. Well, because they're not killing anything that's not already consented to be dead. You carry a legal name, you're dead by consent. You're a zombie. That's the allegory of the zombie movies and the series that you've seen going on for the last while. That's the universe trying to wake you up. And it's a magical place, and people are caught in this physical illusion. And that's another story all by itself. That is the real story.
So all the resources you have on your website, are these things that you've written up, or are they from other sources? Or
they're mine. The vast majority is mine. There's a couple of things there. Specifically, Ninja. She's the manager at Critical Mass Radio, where I host the shows. She's got some poetry up there. There's one document that I put up there that Saran had broken down the apostolic letter. It's as close as it needs to be for people to get a handle on it. And of course, there is the beautiful breakdown from Franco Collins of the apostolic, the motu proprio, what that is. And other than that, the writings are all mine.
So for people who are sort of standing on the edge of and no longer want to support the current establishment, but are still a little bit afraid to stand up against it, is this the direction that you'd recommend that they start then? Okay.
Well, again, it's about changing your mind first. and you got to lose the fear. I've been they attacked me on and stole my home unlawfully. That's the thing. Since that Judge Bao's video came out, I was prime target, and here I am just wanting to make things lawful. And you've heard the stories. People. We got a lot of good people out there, and this is why for me I was trying to figure out how are the courts getting away with literally murder, theft, rape, and pillage, and staying in universal honor, because that's where I live in the spiritual aspect of this. I don't deal in the physical. How are they getting away with this? Because we have to be doing something technically worse. And it is not knowing who you are. That and I go back to some of the great teachers. One of my faves. You might know the guys. I think they reference him as Jesus. And again, not from the religious churchianity perspective. They taught you a load of crap. They don't want you doing what that guy was teaching. That's why they allegorically crucified him. I just follow what. The allegories that are shown there. This is one of the reasons why what I'm doing right now is called Operation Jesus in the Temple. It's about turning the tables on the temple bar. So I like using things that people can relate to. And the simple truth is, and this is why I love when Christians want to debate with me. You're not a Christian, you're a churchianity. You're not doing what Jesus told you to do. You're doing what the church told you think you should do. So everyone's doing it backwards. What was it? Yeah, God is light, ye are gods. You don't hear that one drilled into you in a church, and that's exactly what that teacher taught. All the teachers, Gautama Siddhartha, Buddha, Ahura Mazda, Zoroaster, Krishna, Mithra, all of these teachers, and there's so many of them, all told the same story. And here we have a current modern religion claiming to be the story, and they're all the same story. Krishna came out 10,000 years before the Christ story, and it's the same one, just different characters. Exact same story, different characters. So it's a tough road for people to break free of these programs, because and the program, by the biggest one, is the ego, the no-go. E before word means no. So the no-go, the ego program that gets you all emotional, no motion, gets you stopped. And only when people can get past the emotional programming, because you got to remember, when we arrive here, mama pops us out. Not 5 seconds goes by when they've already chosen a name for you. You're already in a certain religion. You're in a certain country. You're in a certain culture. You're in a certain gender. You're in a certain, you know what I mean? So your canvas at birth, your beautiful white canvas, everyone had a run at it before you even had a chance to say your first words. So everyone already came into a predisposed way of thinking. So it's amazing that any of us broke free from this box, right? And it's a perfect divide and conquer on this planet. Here you have the concept of the singular monotheistic God. Christians, Jews, and Muslims all effectively have the same God, and look at the divide and conquer. It's craziness, just because they have different names for it. But it's the same concepts. And any of these religions, they're not teaching the truth. They're teaching the control. Religion means to bind.
So you speak a lot of the legal fiction. So we're born and we're given this legal name. Now, I've changed my name in recent years, but I have a new legal name. So when you say by using that legal name, I'm essentially committing fraud, right?
Yep.
Okay. And
do you want me to explain why?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this will probably make it clear for people. Okay, here's the steps in how you are committing fraud. You're doing it unknowingly, and this is the ignorance of the law thing that has you trapped. All right, mom and dad go. They decide they're going to have a baby. Okay, the contract that they're in, marriage, or either through church or state, is owned by the crown. Okay, church and state are the crown. It's all intermingles. Decide to have a baby. You're conceived. Next thing you know is They've got the name for you. If you're a girl, they'll call you this. If you're a boy, they'll call you that. You pop out. Next thing you know is they're at the registration office, because that's what everybody does. Everyone's supposed to go to get their child registered, right? Because they got to have a legal name to play in the game. They have to have the mark of the beast to play with the Whore of Babylon. What mom and dad don't realize that when they're registering the name, Regis Stir translates into Regis, to rule, and Stir, divine feminine creative essence. So I'm going to get a little spiritual on you guys, so just bear with me. So you have to rule, the divine feminine creative essence. That's what the word register means. And all things registered are crown-owned. They're given up. Cars, homes, kids, everything. If you have it registered, business, anything at all, it's not yours. It was registered illegally using a false impersonation legal name that was not yours to use. So mom and dad registered the name, and in doing so created a spiritual contract as well by saying, here, you can have my property, my child. Literally. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. That's what a registration does. You're giving up the property completely at that point. Unknowingly. And of course, there was no disclosure, and it was definitely there was intent to deceive mom and dad. So that's what the agents or anyone working for the crown are guilty of in their living flesh. They can't hide behind the titles any longer. The apostolic letter just peeled all that off. So what happens then? Once the child's registered, mom and dad get sent a birth certificate saying, oh, well done, you've registered your child and it's now a slave and has $1 million, they don't tell you this part, $1 million debt that it's going to be liable for, but we're never going to tell them that. We'll just keep milking it with fines and taxes and all the rest of it. So the mom and dad think, oh, this is great. This is, little Sally's birth certificate. So they convince Sally from the time she was born until she comes of, quote, legal age, that she's Sally such and such, such and such. The name on the birth certificate. And of course, Sally goes out and she gets identification, because you can't get any government identification without a birth certificate. And the reason why that is they want you to aid and abet in your own fraud to create the id entity. Identification. Id. And you've got, again, I broke all the words down phonetically. People have no idea what they're saying for the most part. So silence is golden, guys. Anything you say can and will, not maybe, will be used against you in a court of law. And they make that very clear. And it's not a court of law, it's a court of bylaw. But actually, fraud is a common law offense too. So this is why it works on both sides of that coin. So effectively now, you think that you're this legal name. You go out and you create legal identification with it. Passports, bank accounts, age of majority, whatever the case may be, social security numbers, all of this gets created off of that birth certificate, and it's pure fraud. You're using a name that mom and dad gave up, actually paid to register. That's a contract, and that's why they call it a given name, because mom and dad gave it up as a gift. Now look up gift in Black's Law, and you'll understand what the gift really is. Gift is the abbreviation for gamete intrafallopian transfer. And every human being on this planet starts out at the gamete level and is one gender, female. And this is all about grabbing the divine feminine. That's why London, Admiralty, I refer to that, of course, the Whore of Babylon, or the Crown Corporation, Crone Corp's dead mother. She loves her dead babies. And when you start to see the bigger picture on this, you have the big aha moments. So what happens now with the birth certificate is you've created all your matrix of spiderwebbing, legal identification fraud. So anytime you hand that identification out, you are committing false impersonation. Because like I said, I can order anybody's birth certificate. I don't need much information to do that. You've seen these spy movies where they have multiple passports. How do you think they get these things? It's very easy. Like I said, I can order your birth certificate, go create a passport with it. The thing is, nobody knows who they are. You can't claim to be your name, legally or otherwise, until you understand this. I have a lawful name. I have a lawful chosen name. Okay? My name is not in the system at all.
And how, explain that difference between a lawful chosen name and how you use that to function outside the system.
The lawful name I have is what people reference me with. That's all. That's all it is. I don't have any identification. I don't need a piece of paper to say who and what I am. Can you not see me? Can you not hear me? Do you see what I'm saying? People have become so crutched into this paper thing, and of course, illusional, fictional borders. They even put people with guns on imaginary lines. Like, this is madness, pure madness. You know, go across the St. Clair River. I don't know. What's the dirt like in Detroit? I think it's pretty much the same as in Windsor, isn't it? And how does the water know which side to stay on? Which which molecules of water is on the U.S. border side or on the Canadian border side? You see what I'm saying? It's madness.
Let's say you get pulled over driving. I mean, you obviously drive without a driver's license, and how do you deal with a circumstance like that functioning outside the system?
Well, you don't have a name. They have to get a legal name first, and of course they get pretty rough about it. But with me, I don't have that in my script. I do have cops in my script, but they're always going the other way. I work in the magic kingdom. I don't play in this physical illusion. I create my movie. I don't let it be created for me. And this is where the oil and water separate. This is where it's going to be very hard for people to get to the point where I just said, until they let go of all of the programs they've got running, and they have to look in their own mirrors. You will never find yourself debating these things. You will only find these things looking in the mirror and spending the time and just listening to yourself. We have been taught for so long to be distracted outside of ourselves. You know, we get all sorts of media and movies and false flags and everything else to keep you looking everywhere but where you need to. And of course, I go right back to that Jesus guy again. I said, the kingdom of heaven is within. You know, I don't know what part that people don't understand about that. But as far as, no. Again, and I'm kind of a different profile than most people. I'm the last one they want to interface with. I destroy the programs of their automatonic robots called, bylaw enforcement officers. Well, see, the thing is, cops operate in two jurisdictions, but they always default to the Admiralty because you can't milk the bonds and give people tickets from the common law side because there's no harm, right? The only time common law comes into effect, or where a cop should ever show up, is where there's been harm. Someone's property stolen, someone's been hurt, someone's committed fraud. That's it. So really, if anybody, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell people how to get out of situations on a one-by-one basis. That's ludicrous. I don't have time to talk to 7.3 billion people. Really, I don't. I have a hard enough time talking to 30 or 40 people a day, okay? So it had to be an easy answer, and it had to be one that suits everybody. It has to work for the young lady, single mom working at, say, Denny's, or the truck driver that's delivering food across the country, or people that just don't have the time or the wherewithal to try to understand things by Dave Wynn-Miller or by myself or by Winston Stroud or Dean Clifford or any of these people, okay? Because it just doesn't work that way. It's too complicated, so it had to be simple. The answer had to be for everyone. If people want to talk about the one consciousness, then you better start thinking in the one consciousness, that everything that you do manifests for all, and it better be important for all. So that's where I come from. It had to be an answer that, here it is, that it had to be something that everyone had in common. It had to be something that people took from cradle to grave, and it had to be something they would fight to the death via ego to protect. And the only thing that suits that is the name. Let's get to languages around the planet. Every language on this planet has only one thing in common: sound. And that's Phoenician, phonics, Venetian, Venice, all right? It's not a coincidence that all the blue sky bonds, birth certificates, go through Venice. All insurances on this planet go through Venice. It's a city. What is Venice famous for? Gondolas and streets of water, right? It's a floating city. It's a ship. The allegory is there, right? And of course, Phoenician, Venetian. And when you understand the history of that region and going back through Phoenicians, Romans, and I'm a history kind of being, so. But all these dots connected really nicely. I forgot where I was going here. But it has to be something that everyone can understand. And it had to be something everyone needed in order to survive. And of course, the legal name puts you there. And I want to remind people, if you've got people talk about, oh, they took money out of my bank account. It's not your bank account. Never was. You opened it with a legal name. You committed fraud. Everything that you've registered. Here's the reason why people shouldn't be even, a license, for example, comes from the word licentious. So if you hand over a license of any kind whatsoever, what you're telling that individual is that you're licentious, that you are sexually and morally depraved criminal. That's where it comes from. If you hand over an, quote, ownership or registration for a car, it will typically have the car registration number and the all caps or whatever the case may be. It's generally all caps. And don't confuse all caps being something other than uppercase, lowercase, whatever. It doesn't matter. Those were all distractions. The legal name, in any way it's written, is still the legal name until you can separate yourself from it. So you hand over an ownership. You've actually said, and someone says, who owns the car? Do you have the ownership? And you hand the ownership over, and you're saying that you're a car thief, you've given them written evidence to the fact that, one, you're using a name that's not yours. You're committing fraud. False impersonation. And that's a capital crime. That's why everyone's considered dead by consent. And you're saying you're a car thief because it's registered, right? And people are worried about, well, Kate, I've got so much to lose. And I said, you've got nothing to lose that you already haven't. Is your children registered? Is your house registered? Is your car registered? Are your guns registered? People talk about the gun grab and everything else. Well, they're not your guns. Did you register them? They belong to the state.
How does a person earn a living while functioning outside the system? Obviously, you need to have money to have a bank account. You need to have a legal identification, I imagine, to have a job or to do anything within the system, essentially to participate in commerce. But if you have to live in this modern world and pay your bills and so on, how does that happen?
Well, it's all fraud to begin with. All money is fraud. The fact that people go out looking for money, you're using government script. When you use cash, Federal Reserve notes, and every currency on the planet is pegged to it, what you're saying is that you're an agent of the bank. Money is the biggest illusion of all, and people worship it. I see it and handle it. I don't get a lot, and I survive only on donations. As far as my own personal input into this game, it only cost me my family. My home, basically everything. I like to, because for the most part, families aren't as important as money to most people, so I'll give it to you in a monetary sense. About 1.2 to 1.5 million I'm out, having stood in this ground. Now, the question you've asked is always the one that is automatic with people. Well, how do you do this? And you got to take baby steps, right? Me, I said, no, it's all fraud. I'm sorry, I stand in truth completely. So it's all fraud. Get rid of it. There it is. And I'll see. Then I work it out from there. I don't have any bank accounts or anything. Nothing. I have nothing in the system. Nothing. Now you got an idea how tough the road is and why so few will walk it. And this, the pain that people suffer all the time, and the murders and the indoctrinations of the schools, the poisonings through vaccines. And don't worry, they'll chip you. If you got a legal name, they'll chip you because you don't know who you are. And you can't bitch. I'm sorry, you just cannot. You don't know who you are. So I urge people, go ahead, debate with me. You'll see. I don't debate. I just state the facts. This is what it is, and we have and here's the other thing too. My writings on my page are all absolutely confirmed, not only by top-end lawyers, but judges. They're terrified. The immunity is gone. The apostolic letter ripped off the immunity. By the way, the apostolic letter is the allegory of the apocalypse. Now, you say apocalypse to a Christian, they go, "Oh my God, Armageddon!" See, church has really programmed you well. Apocalypse simply means a leather covering or a veil. That's what the apocalypse is. So the apostolic letter kind of sounds almost close, doesn't it? Was the apocalypse, where the veil of the corporate protection of all these murdering bankers and judges and lawyers and the rest of it. had all their immunity stripped. And we've had that directly out of the mouths of judges. One of our regular listeners and part-time host with Critical Mass, Bindi, she talked to a judge, and he absolutely confirmed everything as far as the documents on regarding the name and stuff on my website are absolutely on the money, on the nail. And I had come back from one of my other sources. And guys, this is not bragging. This is just confirmation. Okay, if you want the truth, here it is. I don't care. I'm just here. I'm just here to help. If you want it, that's okay. If you don't, that's okay too. Enjoy your slavery or your freedom. You choose.
What was the motivation behind that letter being issued? Why did they do that?
Well, now we have to get into the astrotheology. Like I said, this is a very, very big picture, but it's very simple when you see it. You've heard of the Age of Aquarius. Well, we entered the Age of Aquarius on February 11th of this year. Ironically and coincidentally, that was the first anniversary of them SWAT raiding my house, kidnapping me and my family at gunpoint. Me first, of course, because they didn't want me to be able to protect my family, so they kidnapped me out in front of my house as I just got back from dropping a terrible crime. I dropped my oldest daughter off at a birthday party. And of course, 2 hours later, they proceeded to smash the door in and kidnap my partner and my youngest daughter at gunpoint there as well. I've been through it. I had lots of really interesting things happen around that, but I don't think your listeners are ready for the real outside-the-box stuff just yet. So let's just say I've experienced some pretty wild things. A lot of things that have someone ever come up to me and told me that prior to it occurring to me, I'd think they were mad, but I saw it, experienced it. So it's quite real. This is welcome to the Magic Kingdom, boys and girls. Time to get out of your physical various sleep delusion.
I've been an astrologer for 20 years now, and there's a lot of belief around different turning points as far as when the Age of Aquarius happened to come about. What's the significance of February 11th?
Well, Pope Benedict stepped down 6 hours later. Two bolts of lightning struck the Vatican, and Pope Benedict made it very clear that he could no longer uphold the Petrine teachings or the teachings of Peter or Jupiter. That was Jupiter moved away from its ruling status, and Uranus came in, co-ruler, and that's of course Uranus with Aquarius, with Saturn. If you want the real goods on this stuff, I urge people to listen to Santo Bonacci. He's on with me every Friday night, by the way, and we've covered this over the last few weeks in great detail as to what's been happening. I follow the roadmaps. I mean, Revelation, the New Testament's a great roadmap. Not because it's a religious book. I don't read that. I can use any book to the same effect. But it's a playbook. And once you understand it, and there's two paths that people can look at. And what the system has done is got everyone looking at the doom and gloom and the literal translations of, the Quran or the Bible or whatever the books are, whereas they were not written literally, they were written allegorically. And all the truth is there. The truth is in everything you look at if you have the eyes to see it and the ears to hear it. And most people are too busy caught up in their day-to-day nonsense of drama. They're too busy, all the world's a stage, too busy trying to be an extra performing in a movie that they have no control over. I just chose to direct my movie. That's the difference.
Do you think that the Pope intentionally planned to do this at this time because of prophecy, or is this something that he was reacting to the current world circumstances?
Well, see, here's where I see everything as one consciousness. And of course, in this game, we are but one with different perspectives of ourself, right? Little sparks of the all spark. Like you're a different camera angle than I am. We could both look at an orange on the table. We'd both see an orange, but you would see it from a slightly different perspective than I. But we would still agree that it's an orange. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I see the one consciousness. And when you have that concept, looking at the Pope doing something, it's all part of the movie, and people are taking this far too seriously. You need to step back and start looking at it objectively. Everyone is subjective to this. They're at effect to this movie instead of being cause over it. Cause and effect, okay? Spiritual intent is cause, and the physical manifestation is the effect. You cannot have a physical effect ahead of a spiritual intent. I'm sorry. If you're going to sign your name to something, you had to have the intent to pick the pen up in the first place to sign it. right? So there's a lot of intentful choices that are made. So that's why when people sign things like, death pledges, mortgages, they call them mortgages in common speak, but it's French for death pledge. Mortgage, death pledge. It's French. Just like language is two French words, langage, which means tongue pledge. That's why silence is golden. If you don't know what you're saying, you must be from Babylon, because that's all you're doing is babbling on. Best that you shut up. Miranda rights, pay attention. It's a very, very magical place when people finally get their heads into it. So the Pope doing that, is just another point of our consciousness. You are a supreme sovereign just as much as the Pope is, just as much as I am. What we have been conditioned into being are slaves. And we're okay. Most people are okay with that. And that's fine. You want to be a slave. I just chose to be free. That's the difference. And being transgendered, I kind of got a concept of being in prison for a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? So I really had a good notion of what freedom was. Like I said, I had my own war to fight within me. 49 years worth. You kind of get a handle on things. So it's all good. But people need to get out of this me mentality, right? Because that's what the system has done. It's conditioned everyone to only look after me and the immediate people around you, which has separated us from the rest of our camera angles, the rest of our points of life. And this planet is changing very, very quickly, and there's nothing that the system can do about it because it's already written. It's written in the stars. We wrote this movie. We are just experiencing it now. That's why I'm telling people to lighten up and just enjoy the ride.
Essentially what you're saying is that this awakening of consciousness that's happening worldwide is the reason why all of these things are happening in the legal system and so on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you think that the momentum is picking up steam from your vantage point and your experience? Now I can tell you what I see as an astrologer coming in the future, but from what you see on the ground, do you think that we've turned the corner in terms of
huge.
That? Yeah, okay.
Huge. We have went exponential in the last couple of months. I mean, if I'm just going to base it on what I see on a daily basis with people contacting me, and our numbers on the show in the last 2 weeks have doubled. The word's out there. This is a thing about, you've seen those domino setups where you click one domino and the rest all start falling. Well, we're setting a world record of dominoes where everyone that awakens is another one of those dominoes that gets knocked over. It's like when, let's say people tune into this, okay? And they're listening. And something that we say during this hour and a half, whatever this is, clicks with them. That domino will never be the same again. And now it's been touched. You see, dominoes have to touch each other in order to fall, right? And what's happening now, one individual gets these concepts. This is why I've written a lot of one-page handouts for people to let them know the fraud they're committing, and it's made very clear in these little notices. They're all on my site. There's one document that I put together that is a one-stop. It's called One Stop Truth Doc, and you print that out, and that has everything you need to give to law firms, use on case files, only to the clerk. You don't play with this stuff in court. You must deal with the highest power in the court, and that's the clerk. Go back to clerk's praxis, honor, dishonor. Okay. The judge, they're just like the queen. They're just a figurehead. You saw the judge bow to me. The judge bowed to a sovereign. The judge will only bow to a sovereign. And that was a common law jurisdiction. I owned that court. That video, by the way, 2.5 minutes that people see, is the culmination of a 7.5-hour standoff. It was a long day. Yeah, and there was myself and 21 other people there with me to witness it. So I had my own jury, grand jury with me. We made them nervous, and it was a common law court. And I told the bailiffs to back off, and they jumped too. So again, you got to step into your power. And this is 3 years ago. I was only 3 or 4 months into the game at that point. I was wet behind the ears, but I knew enough about what I wanted to say. I'm a writer, songwriter. I kind of have that gift of writing. I've had lots of practice. That's all. But the most important thing was I knew who I was, and I knew I wasn't that name. I was born in the mirror. I was born the literal opposite, right? And by the way, I want to clarify something for people. Everyone sees men and women. They don't see energy. They see penises and vaginas, okay? When I speak of the feminine and masculine, I'm not speaking of the physical bits, okay? Sex is between the legs. Gender is between the ears. A little difference, right? And you being an astrologer, you know, who rules the genitals? Scorpio. And who rules the heaven? Aries. Okay, so where do you want to live? Hell or heaven? And I chose heaven. That's the only difference. But you really need to get rid of that divide and conquer right quick, because I know a lot of women that have larger penises than a lot of men in that energy aspect, and I know a lot of men that have larger vaginas than a lot of women based on that energy concept. When you start to see the energy, we are a quad. We have 4 aspects to us, right? There's that 4 number again. We have positive, negative, masculine, positive, negative, feminine. And if you've seen Santo's work with, the heaven above the equator, so look at it as a globe. Most people are living below the equator in the negative masculine, negative feminine. That's a man. Let's go gender for a sec here. A man that is highly emotional and angry, wants to carry guns and shoot children in foreign countries, is working with an out of control negative feminine emotion. Right? Like, to give you an example in the Bible, give you an idea of Bill Donahue was the best guy to go to get a real idea of what the Bible is all about. But if you have, you're probably familiar with the line that the wife must be subservient to the husband. Okay, if you take that literally, it makes women a second-rate being on this planet, which is absolute nonsense, right? Put everything else aside. What that is actually saying, anything feminine in the Bible is, this is one of the aspects, is relating to emotions, right? Anything masculine is relating to the mind. So let's say it again with that. The wife must be subservient to the husband. What it's saying in the occult, mystical, hidden meaning is this, that the emotions must be subservient to the mind. It means get a grip on your emotions.
What do you think is our responsibility, like our biggest responsibility right now as, people in this time of awakening of consciousness?
The biggest responsibility is the ability to take responsibility. Everything that you have ever chosen and done in your life is your fault. You danced with whatever you danced with. There is no such thing as outside blame. Here's an example. 2 people are traveling towards an intersection in their cars, and one of them decides to turn left at the last second and ends up getting hit by the other one. Whose fault is it? It's both their faults. I'll tell you why. Because every choice, every decision they'd made throughout their lives brought them to the same point in time.
If somebody wanted to start changing the system today in simple, easy terms so that they can, you mentioned earlier.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps. So what are those first baby steps?
Okay, well, first thing you need to do is change your intention. This is the most important, yet it's the easiest to do. First thing is you have to decide that I no longer want to participate in committing fraud and aiding and abetting in the murder of children and starvation of children. And I put it quite literally because that's what's happening. When people don't make a choice in the positive, this is the domino effect in the negative, okay? So what we have to do, first off, is change our mind, right? Change your mind, change your universe. All right. Once we have that intent to say, listen, I'm awake, and only the awakened will hear this, okay? I'm awake. I don't know what to do just yet. So let's take a breath. Let's just breathe first and go, it's pretty messed up. And I want the best for not only my children, but everyone's children. I want a better world. So here's where you start. You start by stop using things like credit cards. You start taking fiscal responsibility instead of creating more. Ask anyone with a credit card. Do they have a zero balance? No, they're constantly carrying a balance, right? Stop using those. Get those out of the way, and those are very easy to get rid of. I don't want to get into the legal stuff because all it does is inspires the ego. Gimme, what can I get for free, Kate? So I don't go there just yet. But you've got a library card or whatever, cut it in half. You've got debit card, cut it in half. Here's really easy one, if you want to start getting comfortable with the idea, is leave all your identification at home when you're traveling. Start getting used to the idea of not having that there as a crutch, because that's all it is. Have you ever left the house and forgot your wallet? Oh no, I left my. You see the control that the identification has on people. So that's actually a fairly large baby step, but it's one that doesn't have any real commitment to it other than making the choice or the intent to just leave it behind for a day or two. One, you're going to spend a whole lot less. Okay, because people are always reluctant to spend cash. If they got a credit card, they use that first, right? Or if they have a debit card, they use it because it doesn't feel like they're spending anything. They have probably enough cash in their wallet, or maybe they don't, but typically these cards, these system digital number printout nonsense creating more debt things are always the go-to for people. They want to keep their cash, right? So start getting in the habit of not using those things. And these are the baby steps that people can do. Every loan that you're in is fraud. Every credit card you're in is fraud. Driver's license is fraud. Anything that you have done in your life regarding the legal name is absolute fraud. And the only reason the system hasn't come in and just taken everything from you, because you're dead, you have no voice, dead men tell no tales, is because the system is happier taking 90 to 95% of your productivity while you're still a happy, salivating slave looking for nanny state to wipe your bum.
So how do you envision the system we use in the future? Is there a system, or is there a currency exchange? How do we get things done?
Well, again, you see, I'm not even going to begin to try to solve or look into a new paradigm using old paradigm thinking. So everything that we think of in terms of exchange and barter and money and all the rest of it is old paradigm thinking. What we need to do is move away from this whole notion of the inception of the thought, from thought, no less, Hermes Trismegistus, was, giving gold value. You see, when something outside of you is given value, it instantly creates lack of abundance. Because if someone finds gold and has control of the gold, everyone else around them has lack. And of course, everyone wants to have that. So there's your beautiful divide and conquer in the emotional state. How many times have you heard of the gold rush stories where, tens of thousands of people go to get their fortunes and only one or two actually end up doing that, right? It's another lottery. And it's the same program that the courts use. It's the same programs that churches use. The churches teach you all about having a savior outside of yourself when, quite frankly, the master, Jesus, said, no, you're the savior. He's not coming back, not coming to save you. Sorry, the whole lesson was you got to save yourself. I just decided to listen. That's all.
You're probably familiar with Michael Tellinger, the archaeologist, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the Ubuntu movement in South Africa. He has done a lot of research into the ancient civilizations in South Africa and how there were these people, probably of some advanced race or extraterrestrial race, who were mining gold on Earth at one time and used people as slaves. And my question to you is, what do you think is the origin of the foundation of gold being part of our financial system and the obsession with that whole thing?
Okay, well, it depends on the perspective of what people see gold as. Again, if we go literal, we'll see this glittering little nugget, right? If we go allegorical, I'll tell you what the true gold is. The true gold, and you can see this. This is some of the most precious hidden knowledge. There's one cartouche. What was the name of the gentleman? Steve Mailer did a beautiful, and he even glazed over on it. But anyway, some of the more astute people caught it and sent it to me, and I thought, yeah, there it is. But in the final cartouche that is deemed the wisest of the wise, there's a hieroglyph that has a human leg standing upright, up to the above the thigh. And right where the genitals are, it's just a leg, there is a vase on its side with water coming out of it. That's the Aquarius. Okay, that is, you are the water bearer. We are all the water bearers. And the water, the true gold, is the liquid that people just throw down toilets. That's Philosopher's Stone. Right, I'm a urine therapist, along with millions of others. And to even begin to explain to people the power of that, you are definitely and literally pissing your lives away. We just chose to reverse our aging, increase our mental ability, and open our pineal gland. I would recommend on that, do some research with Andrew Norton Weber. All the science is there. For astrotheology, go to Santa Bonacci. For urine therapy, go to Andrew Norton Weber. And for biblical allegorical translations, go to Bill Donahue. These are all people that know their stuff cold. The information's there. It's up to people to have a look at it and decide that everything, and this is one of the critical things, you got to decide that everything that you've ever been taught was a load of rubbish, because it was. They only teach, those that control this system only teach the slaves enough to run their machines and keep their systems operating. They don't want them awake. That's why your typical cop nowadays, it has been for the last very long time, are nothing more than 80 to 90 IQ jarheads, jacked up. Well, the city where my home is, that I will be going back to, the Guelph Police Department. I mean, cops a few weeks back just got nailed for steroids. One cop had 28 syringes of steroids in his police locker, and you're telling me that no other cops noticed this? Oh, and not only that, they only found this out because he had a methadone overdose from some meth that he had stolen from one of the raids. A bunch of jacked up on steroids jarheads. Oh yeah, and don't worry, we're exposing all this. I expose all this stuff, not necessarily daily, but as it comes in. Just had a chat with an individual that I'll be meeting tonight that has quite the story, and I'll be breaking that one, and all names included. I have if there's any passion I have, I love making criminals famous.
What's your time frame in terms of, like, when do you see things really coming to a critical mass where we see global change that will affect the mainstream?
It's already here. I only live in the now. Past and future are illusions. They do not exist. There is only the now. So I see it right now.
No, I see it too. But obviously the mainstream is totally unconscious to this, right?
Yeah, but then they're not operating in the now. So I let them stay in their delusion. What we're doing here, Ethan, is this. We're bringing this consciousness to light. And the fact that we are talking, we are empowering that. And the fact that people are tuned in, and if they are truly tuned in, they're adding to this. We are the critical mass right now.
So do you have any final words of wisdom for the people who are listening to this call in terms of, anything that you think they should know?
Honestly, I got to tell you, given what I've been through, the things that I've seen and experienced, what I've had to deal with the system, and my own life path. Wow. Welcome to Oz, boys and girls. Time to snap out of it. You get out of the poppy field. Get awake. We're home. The Emerald City's right there. The Emerald City is your heart, by the way. Emerald is, green chakra heart. Mm-hmm. And that's where you got to get back to. So love thy neighbor. That's a great start.
Do you ever teach workshops or classes or anything like that, or just your radio show?
Radio show is a workshop. It's a work in progress every night. It's a table it's an open forum that all are welcome. It is a level table. It is round. We do not debate anything at that table. We bring what we bring, we dump it on the table and pick through for the gems of truth. And that helps everyone. We work at this collectively. We do this together. Where there is no competition at our table. That is completely the opposite of where you need to go. Can you imagine humanity? Just imagine this for a sec. If we weren't competing with each other to claw and crawl up each other's backs to get a bigger pile of debt called money. And instead of that nonsense, getting into a collective co-creation state, where you're actually doing that which resonates with your heart. It doesn't matter if you're a sculptor, a builder, a truck driver, a songwriter. It doesn't matter. When you step into your power, everyone profits.
Yeah, I want to back up a little bit, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
absolutely.
Actually, I wasn't planning on going in this direction, but you mentioned urine therapy earlier. We have a really strong foundation. We take a very holistic approach to everything that we do, and we obviously have a health component as well. What are some of the benefits or results you've noticed from either yourself or people around you from using?
Oh, the list is endless. Well, let me tell you exactly what it is first. We have a few minutes?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
This, for me, is critical. People think of blood as a liquid. Well, it is sort of, but it's not. Blood is a very, very special medium. We all have it. This is the one thing we all have in common on this planet. Animals, too. What are the odds? We all bleed red. And I'll tell you what blood is. Blood is the kundalini. Everything, I can show you the fractal and everything. So here is blood as the kundalini, the two serpents intertwining, the Ouroboros of gold and silver, which is knowledge and truth, all right? You have plasma. You've heard of blood plasma? What is plasma? Plasma is energy. It's ether, okay? Just like you cannot see electricity, you can only see the effects of it, okay? Plasma in the blood is your higher spiritual aspect, and it comes into it doesn't contact, but it interweaves like oil and water. They can never mix and they can never touch. There's always space between them. The water in your blood is the matter, the mother, the material, or the physical aspect. So you have the heaven as above, earth as below, plasma, and water. The blood gets filtered through the kidneys. The kidneys, as you know, astrology is Libra, the scales of balance. And if you look at your kidneys as your body's super guru IT guy, the one that you go to fix all your computer problems, that's what your kidneys are. So when the blood comes through to get purified in your kidneys, what happens there is whatever nutrients are needed in the body are left in the blood, and whatever is not needed at that particular time gets filtered off and gets stored in the bladder. And contained within that most pure distilled water, the purest distilled water on this planet, has it has come into contact with the ether, the heaven. So there's the philosopher's stone astral right there. It also is chock full of stem cells. Your kidneys create stem cells. What do stem cells do? Well, there are countless stem cells in every bladder. Every time it fills, it's especially in the morning. The morning for me is the most important one because it has condensed a lot more. Like during the day, when you're looping, it gets clearer and clearer. And of course, when you've done this long enough, it's sweet coconut, fizzy sweet coconut water. It's beautiful. Yeah, you'd be amazed at how awesome you taste. But anyway. Also has all of the amino acids, all of them, not one or two. It has all of them. Everything that your body needs gets programmed into the urine through the IT guys, the kidneys. Hair of the dog that bit you. This is before Big Pharma came in and took over back in the 50s. Typically, when someone came into the doctor, they had to bring in a urine sample, and the doctor would make up whatever medicine they were going to have with their own urine. Because contained within the urine is the hair of the dog that bit you. So if you have something wrong with you, your IT guys already know that. They program it into the urine, and what do? You go and piss it away. So stop doing that. The benefits, gray hair gone, oh my God, reverse aging. It's a philosopher's stone. Do some research on the book of Aquarius and you'll understand how critically important it is. And that is the gold that was referenced back. And again, you mentioned about, aliens and all the rest of it. If you see the world as a stage, I do. We've had many scripts played out here. This is a stage, and this is just yet another performance on this stage. That's all this is. This is why we've had so many different cultures and civilizations, different movies, different times to experience ourselves. And that's it. But urine therapy, you're an idiot if you're not on it. Sorry, I'm going to be blunt because I got to tell you, people talk about a calcified pineal 2 to 3 days in, and it's open.
I see. So there are spiritual implications to it.
That's what it is. And also, people worried about chemtrails, radiation, all the rest of it. This is your shield, baby. Put your shields up. Nothing affects you. Radio waves, you can't get electronic interference. You know, you look at the smart meters and all the radio waves that are going around. You've heard about electronic attacks that people have been under. This is your shields up, baby.
Okay, so this is interesting because this we haven't talked about this, but our organization, we have a subgroup called Conscious Action where we're trying to solve all these various problems you just mentioned through a variety of different alternative techniques, and we've had a lot of success with it, actually. I'm curious, how does urine therapy protect against electromagnetic fields or chemtrails? I mean, how does that work?
Well, it's you're better to go to Andrew Norton Weber for this, but here's how I understand it. We need to be resistance. You know, Ohm. Is it a coincidence that the guy that came up with Ohm's law was named Ohm? You know, Ohm as in resistance. What we need to do is reduce our electrical capacity by becoming a resistor. And when we're alkaline, we are that resistor, where external electrical energies cannot permeate us. And I'm talking Magellan's disease, I'm talking cancer, I'm talking all of these out of balance energetics. And everything is energy. And you have the balance contained within you. You are your own physician. You are a universe within a universe. Everything is a fractal of the all. Just like when a woman gets pregnant, imprinted in every one of her cells is the embryo. And as the child grows, that's imprinted on the cells too, because that is the universe within the universe. Now, this is pretty heady stuff, okay? So suffice it to say this. When you create a more alkaline body, well, one, cancer is a fungus. It cannot exist in alkaline, and people wonder why cancer is so rampant. Well, back off of the Diet Coke with aspartame, which, of course, aspartame is made with the feces of the E. coli bacteria, and we all know how much fun E. coli is. So we are poisoning our bodies with our diet. Not me, but North American, Western diet is pure poison. You know, we're running with rampant obesity, and people are starving because they're not getting any of the nutrients. You saw the guy that went to McDonald's for a month and was almost dead at the end of it, just eating there. Okay, we're too acidic. Cancer is a fungus. Fungus thrives in an acidic environment. So when and of course, what do we use in a battery? Battery acid. So we need to remove that battery acid and become alkaline.
I see.
Oh yeah, so that pretty much covers it. Again, I'd say go to AndrewNortonWeber.com and for those that want to really catch up on that reality. But there are very few. I'll tell you, the people that tune in to Outside the Box Open Forum, you'd be hard pressed to find someone that isn't a urine therapist.
Yeah, I've noticed that about your show, and I wondered what the origins were of that. Now, I've been a raw foodist for 8-9 years now, so I've been eating a very unusual kind of diet, and I don't eat any of those kind of processed foods and so on. So I understand the whole alkalinity concept and everything. So you're saying essentially urine creates an alkaline environment regardless of diet.
Pretty much. Well, the more you work on your diet, obviously, the less you have to, keep readjusting. But isn't it interesting that you eat the Son of God or light of God? Sun as in S-U-N. Don't see the phonics, how it confuses people? Raw, as sun god, raw foods. Very
interesting. No, thank you so much. This has been a really fascinating conversation and went in different directions I hadn't planned on, but still quite interesting. So where do people find you to get involved in all your various projects?
Okay, well, the easiest place to find us, and I say us because there are a lot of us now, at the radio table or Outside the Box, and you can get there through criticalmassradio.co.uk. It's just a coincidence that I'm with Critical Mass, yeah? And of course, to contact me direct is very easy. I'm very accessible. I think you know that. You can get to me through my website, kateofgaia.wordpress.com, and of course on Facebook at kate.renee.5, KATE.RENE.5. And on Skype, which is my preferred medium of connection, you can get me there at katie.renee.thompson. That's KATIE.RENE.THOMPSON. And of course, for those that really need to get a hold of me, and because I'm afraid of my privacy, here's my cell number: 226-971-9675. And all you got to do is Google Kate of Gaia. If you can't find me, you're not on Earth.
Well, you know what? This has been fantastic. I've enjoyed this thoroughly, and I'd love to talk again sometime.
Anytime, Ethan.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, I love talking to people. Stay the course. That's all I tell people. Just stay the course. And have you read my essay Choices?
I have not, no.
Okay, read that one. It'll resonate with you.
Okay, all right.
I'd say read everything there, but Choices, the essays are written from a very specific perspective and spiritual at that. So you'll get it. You'll get it.
Okay. All right. I'll do that.
You're a flagship, not a ship of the line. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Much love, my friend, and I'm here. Okay.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.